Welcome to Dirshu Daf HaYomi B'Halacha. Today we are continuing in Hilchos Netilas Yadayim Shachris, which are the laws that pertain to washing one's hands in the morning. Siman Dalid. Today we're going to begin with Sif Yud Ches, and we are going to continue until and including Sif Chaf Aleph. The questions that we are going to be addressing in today's shiur: is it necessary to wash one's hands upon leaving a bathroom? Which activities demand clean hands? And the third question that we'll be answering today: should all the participants in a levaya wash their hands? So let's begin with Sif Yud Ches. El davar sricha netila b'mayim. These are the three things, or the numerous things, I should say, that are required when it comes to washing your hands. Hakam mehamita, person who gets up from bed. V'yotzim b'beis hakisei, someone who leaves the bathroom. B'beis hamerchatz, or a bathhouse. V'noitl tziparnav, one who cuts their nails. V'choylitz minalav, if you take off your shoes. V'hanoigeya baraglav, if you touch your feet. V'choyfif barosho, a person rubs his head. V'yesh omrim afa hoylech bein hamesim, also someone who goes among the dead. If you touch a dead body, so all these people, we require netilas yadayim afterwards. Which the Gemara in Shabbos talks about, is also in Gemara Beya, about removing lice. After marital relations, again who touches lice, and one who touches his body with his hands. If, let's say, you did all these things, but for whatever reason you still didn't wash your hands, you're supposed to, so if you're Talmid Chacham, your learning will become forgotten, which really means that you're not going to have the same frame of mind. Okay, let's look at the Mishnah Berurah on this, Yud Ches. Sricha netila, l'haser ruach ra hashora al yedei zeh. So all these different things cause a ruach ra to come upon your hands. Al kain yimahir litoil takef. Therefore, the Mishnah Berurah says you should wash immediately afterwards. For netilati ad haperek, when it comes to washing, it's until our wrists. Al kopanim ad soif kishretz boisaiv, at the very least the knuckles. Al im al lachlich yada betit. Let's say you're filled with mud. So if it's not one of these reasons, it's just because your hands are dirty, they got muddy, so you remove that mud and that's sufficient. In tefillah, it's explained later on, and again, ayin sham. B'mayim, afot tefillah v'koshkin l'toira. So you're supposed to use water for davening, and certainly when it comes to learning, dai acher kol elu b'nekiyin b'alma. Just from a cleansing of the hands is sufficient. And later on in Sif Kaf Beis, it talks about getting up from the bed. Says the Mishnah Berurah, v'kol shekin be'inoch mikol makom l'stalik ruach ra sarach daf gamayim. When it comes to these things, you need water to be able to remove that ruach ra. And then the Mishnah Berurah says, "Ve'en sarach shalosh pa'amim." You may not need to do it 3 times. Ki'im become min hamita. The only time you have to do that is when you get out of bed in the morning. Some people are strict when it comes to even when you go among the mesim. When it comes to having tashra shemita, to be in gamkin shalosh pa'amim. So there are those that say you should also wash 3 times, b'sirugin as well, when it comes to those things. And it's brought down in the Sefer Heichal Kodesh. There's machmir b'yotzim b'beis hakisei shalosh pa'amim. Also, when you leave the bathroom, you should wash your hands 3 times. Okay, v'yotzim b'beis hakisei. So if you leave the bathroom, it says filu asa sracha. This is the chiddush. Of course, if you use the bathroom and actually go to the bathroom, as we use that language, then certainly you have to wash your hands. But even if you didn't, you just apparently just walked into a bathroom. So at that point, you have to wash your hands. It says the same thing. V'chein mebeis hamerchatz afilu lo rachatz sham. There's this ruach ra in a base of merchatz and a base of kisei. So even if you don't end up using a bathhouse, you don't actually use the bathroom, nonetheless, you still have to wash. Menalav, when you are dealing with your shoes, when you take off your shoes, you're touching them with your hands. Let's say you have slip-on shoes or slides. So in that situation, let's say Crocs. So in that case, if you don't have to touch them, it's not an issue. He says that when it comes to the issue of chayfev rosho, it's not the issue. It's not because of ruach ra, rak mishum nikiyas. That's why when it comes to those things like rubbing the head, you don't have to wash immediately. So if it's al ruach ra, you have to wash right away. However, if we're like leaving a basic kisei. However, when it comes to other things, when it touches their feet, rubs their head, so it's an issue of nikius. There's no ruach ra in your hands, but it's not cleanly. So therefore, you have a little bit more of a window to wash. Bein hamesim, bebeis hakvaros. It's talking about if you are in a cemetery. So the Mariel writes, "Sheish litul kaidem l'shpalal al kavados." A person should wash before they daven. V'reichatzin shenis b'shuva yilachatzu basic varos. And you should wash a second time when you go to the courtyard of the cemetery. Sharuchos ros malavin chayzrin. Because as you're a malava, it does come upon you. V'yishno hagin oz lichutz gam hapanim. Some people actually wash the face as well. B'meis v'afil misha nichnas eitzel meis echad or shaholchal avaisai. If let's say you're just going to accompany the mace, no hagin minatil, we're still need to wash. But no hagul hakbid im yichanis adam l'bayis acher kodim shirchatz. You were strict that a person shouldn't go into another house before he washes. Minhag avosenu Torah, and our minhag is Torah, and therefore one has to be strict. It says Caleb, even if you don't actually touch the lice, but if you have them removed, Bakina, so it's possible that when we're removing these things, it's because of Nikiyin, it's not because of Ruach Ra. Biyadai, Shesh Behen Milmuli Zeya, was very sweaty. Yoitz Medaito, if you're not Talmud Chacham, so on this, the Eliyahu Rabbah says that nislavish by ruach shtus, that you end up having this ruach shtus come upon you. You may end up sinning. Based on that, we say that the only time a person does the ver is if there's ruach shtus. So this person will have a ruach shtus, and ultimately they may end up coming to violate and to sin. Okay, so let's address. That was Sif Yud Ches. Let's actually see Sif Yud Tes as well. Hamak is dam. Let's say a person does bloodletting. Mefachid shiva yomim. He should be afraid for 7 days if he doesn't wash afterwards. Let's say you shave, but you don't wash. Mefachid shloishim. You should be afraid 3 days. If you cut your nails, you don't wash after, so be afraid of 1 day. You don't know what there is to be afraid of. But nonetheless, one again should make sure to wash their hands even when it comes to these things. Okay, let's begin actually seeing. Let's see in order these questions. The first one was, is it necessary to wash one's hands upon leaving a bathroom? So according to the Mishnah Berurah, it's necessary even if you don't use the actual bathroom. So on this, the Biurim Musafim says as follows: Ubedin basic hisei shel zmanenu. The stopik chazayin ish. There's a something when it comes to our bathrooms. Our bathrooms are clean and they're unusual. Are they comparable to the bathrooms of the Parsim? She'en lo din basic hisei mishum shasar enu nisher sham el neifelos l'merachik. Oh, you flush a toilet and all of a sudden the waste matter is no longer there. So maybe it doesn't really have the same din of a basic hisei that it takes upon itself this ruach ra that you go in it. Or perhaps we say, no, it has a base din of a base case gomor, it doesn't make any difference. So the Igros Moshe says, kasru, shish hachmer, that people are strict. When you go into a bathroom, you always wash your hands. And so the opinion of Rav Shimon Arlbach says the same. Rabbi Yashav, he says the same thing. Now, belitol shamas yadav achar siyas rachav. Let's say you use the bathroom, and you have a sink in the bathroom. So how does that help that you washed your hands in the bathroom? You have to wash your hands because you're in a bathroom. So l'chayra, you should only be able to wash outside of a bathroom. So the Chazon Ish says shim yaitze k'shiyada retuvais daibazek kamanetila b'libra b'kli shlo b'kli. So technically, as long as your hands are still wet, which means that you haven't completed the process of the netila, then it's okay even if you washed your hands in the bathroom. And the Shalos and Chuvas Yitzchak writes that Shebashasat Chak she efshir b'oifen acher yeshul hater. If they have no other choice, so in that case we can be lenient. How about, let's say you need to eat, so could you wash your hands in the bathroom? So on this, the Chazon Ish writes, Shekashil hakel, and the Igros Moshe says she'asa litul sham. Actually, you're not allowed to wash there. And furthermore, he adds, Sheyito yoda l'tzarech tefila, for wash your hands for the sake of davening in the bathroom. Kivan she dai linkois b'chol midin menaki. In order, when it comes to tefillah, you can clean your hands not just with water, with anything that can cleanse it. Yeshul hakel, there people are lenient that you could actually wash your hands in a bathroom when it comes to for the Indian of tefillah. Okay, but of course, if this is only b'oifin that there's no other option, and again, you should dry your hands only after you leave the bathroom. Fine. And it talks about a bathhouse, an ambantia, which is not miyuchid specifically for washing, rather it has other tashmishim, other uses. So on this, the Avi Ezri writes, she'ein la din merchatz. That's not considered to be a bathhouse. And it's not any different than a middle room of a bathroom, of a bathhouse, and therefore people are lenient when it comes to that. So, question. Is it necessary to wash one's hands upon leaving a bathroom? So a person who leaves a bathroom or bathhouse must wash his hands. Even if he did not use the facilities, these places impart a ruach ra, which must be washed off. Washing one time is sufficient for this type of ruach ra. Since the purpose of washing is to remove a negative force, it should be done as soon as possible. Contemporary poskim debate whether modern-day bathrooms also impart ruach ra. Many rule stringently. According to many poskim, a room with a bath or shower, which is also used for other purposes, does not have the status of a bathroom, of a bathhouse of old. So if you go and take a shower, or you don't even necessarily take a shower, but you just walk into this bathhouse, so to speak, which has a bath and a shower and may have a sink. So the question is, if you go there and you just go in there just to brush your teeth, so do you have to wash your hands afterwards because you walked into this base of merchatz? So because it has so many other functions, so therefore we're lenient when it comes to that. Okay. And then the Biurim Umusafim adds on number 55, addressing the question of should all the one of the things that we mentioned was should all the participants of a levaya wash their hands? So we said that that's one of the times you have to wash. Well, a person who is in a basic kvaris or you're within dalad alma. So he says like this: if you're accompanying them, you have to wash. The Pri Megadim writes, that's only if you're within 4 amos of the mace. The Chazon Ish writes, if you're mimulav the mace, even if you're outside the 4 hours, you still have to wash your hand. So should all the participants in the levaya wash their hands? A person must wash their hands after engaging in certain activities involving a dead body or funeral. These activities include leaving a cemetery or a room containing a corpse, touching a dead body, and participating in a levaya within 4 amos of the corpse. Some take a stringent position, holding that all participants should wash their hands. There is a custom for participants in a funeral not to enter a house before washing their hands, which we saw in the Mishnah Berurah. In some circles, the face is washed as well. Okay, so let's finish this up. Sif Chaf Haroichetz Pana V'loi Nigbom. You wash your face and you don't dry them. Yafe Panav Misbakais O Oil Lehem Shchin. So then you could end up having these issues with your face, blemishes and boils. For wasai to heal it, lirchatz harbe b'meit silka. You should wash with this beet juice. Sifchaf aleph. Sarich lizaher. You have to be careful. B'tfilo or b'chilo, davening or eating. Shalo liga b'shoik v'yarich v'mkaimas hamachusim ba'adam. Not to cover, not to touch while you're davening or eating certain parts of your body, like your thigh, certain areas that are typically covered. Because it has sweat. You should also not scratch your head. Certain parts of your head which are revealed, so certain parts, like for example your arm right over here, to scratch this part of your hand, we're not makbid because that's something which is open and revealed. So let's see the Mishnah Berurah. So when a person is learning Torah, you also should not touch parts of your body which are covered. So it's explained in Siman Sadi Beis. It's explained over there. She'im oimed betfila. Let's say you're standing, you're davening. Nisker shenagu b'makam atunaf. Let's say you touched the one of these covered parts and you davened in the middle of davening. Daim nikiyoin afar shalach lech yad b'kaisel. So if you're next to a wall, you rub your hand against the wall. The ma'yasem tzatfil, because you can't go and go to the sink and wash your hands because you're in the middle of Shemon Esrei. Umihu im oimed adayin. Let's say you're not Shemon Esrei, but you're other parts of the davening, then you should actually go and wash your hands. And Siman Kuf Sadi Samach Dalid, over there it's explained, Shim Avar v'Naga b'Teichasuda. Let's say you touch these parts of your body in the middle of a meal, Sarach Lital Yodav Shenis Kadin. You actually have to wash your hands a second time. Ach, Indian Birchas al Natilas Yadayim, when it comes to saying the bracha, Shaloi Lachsel Varach. You don't have to say the bracha again. Fine. So we said you also have to be careful about the sweat. So to your neck, you have to be careful of, again, touching certain parts which are typically not megula. However, shibizroyaisav ad parak until your wrist. Let's say you walk around barefoot. That should have maybe that's also considered to be something which is revealed or out in the open. Okay. So let's conclude by looking at the question, which we really saw throughout all these different sifim: which activities demand clean hands? A person who touches an area which is generally covered or scratches his scalp must wash his hands. These areas are considered unclean, and one may not say a davar shebekadusha until he washes after touching them. Care should be taken not to touch these areas during davening, learning, and eating. If one did, he must rewash his hands. If a person touched these hands during Shemona Esrei, where he cannot interrupt to wash, or learning Torah, where an interruption would cause bittul Torah, so he should wipe his hands on a hard surface, or as we said, on a wall. The poskim disagree about whether washing is required after touching a covered area which was washed and is still known to be clean. Let's see one of the questions over here. Question 17. Must one hurry to wash one's hands after scrubbing one's head or after exiting a bathhouse? So the answer is, after exiting a bathhouse, yes, because there's ruach ra. So you got to get the ruach ra off your hands immediately. Masha'enkin, when it comes to scrubbing one's head, you do it, but you don't have to do it right away because it's not because of Ruach Ra, it's because of Nikiyas, because of cleanliness purposes. And for cleanliness reasons, we say that it's not necessary for you to have to go and wash immediately. Question 8. Must one be careful not to scratch one's head during davening? And the answer, Pashut, is yes, you do have to be careful with that. Ad kan.